What if the dream you spent your whole life chasing turned out to be someone else's nightmare? Lily Chen stood in the doorway of her new restaurant, watching the sunset paint the Portland sky in shades of amber and rose. The sign above her head read Harvest and Honey in elegant gold lettering. 3 months of construction, 2 years of planning, a lifetime of dreaming. This was it. Her restaurant. Her name on the door, her menu. Her vision brought to life. She should have been ecstatic. Instead, she felt hollow. Her phone buzzed. A text from her daughter, Emma, asterisk, Mom, can you pick me up from Sarah's? Dad forgot again. Asterisk. Lily checked her watch, 7:47 p.m. She had a staff meeting in 13 minutes. The pre-opening was in 3 days. She had a million things to do. Asterisk, ask Dad to get you. I'm at the restaurant. Asterisk, 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Asterisk, he's not answering. Please, Mom, it's getting dark. Asterisk, Lily closed her eyes and took a breath. Sarah's house was 20 minutes away. Round trip, at least 45 minutes with Portland traffic. The staff meeting couldn't wait. They needed to finalize the opening night service flow. She texted her sous chef, Marcus. Asterisk, start without me. Emergency, be there in an hour. Then to Emma, on my way. Sweetie, asterisk, as Lily drove through the city. She thought about how many times she'd had this exact exchange with Emma in the past year. How many times emergency had meant choosing between her daughter and her dream. How many times Emma had waited while Lily handled just one more thing at the restaurant. Emma was 12 now, on the edge of becoming a teenager. These were important years, Lily knew. Years when girls needed their mothers. But Lily had also needed to prove she could build something of her own. Needed to show Emma that women could chase their dreams. Needed to create the legacy she'd been planning since culinary school 15 years ago. She pulled up to Sarah's house. Emma was sitting on the front steps, backpack beside her, arms wrapped around her knees. When she saw Lily's car, she stood slowly. No smile. No wave. Just resignation. Thanks for coming, Emma said flatly as she got in. Of course, honey. Sorry it took a while. You're always sorry. The words hit harder than they should have. Emma, it's fine, Mom. I get it. The restaurant is important. You're important too. Emma looked out the window. Sure. They drove in silence. Lily wanted to say something to bridge the growing distance between them. But her mind was already racing ahead to the staff meeting, to the vendor deliveries tomorrow. To the 100 details that could make or break opening night. When they got home, the house was dark. Emma's father, David, still wasn't there. He'd moved out 6 months ago, couldn't handle Lily's obsession with the restaurant, he'd said. Couldn't compete with her first love, meaning cooking. The divorce papers were still being finalized. There's leftover pasta in the fridge, Lily said as Emma headed upstairs. I'm not hungry. Emma, you need to eat. I said I'm not hungry. Emma's door closed. Not quite a slam, but close enough. Lily stood in the kitchen of the house she'd bought with David 8 years ago. The house that now felt too big and too empty. She should go upstairs. Should talk to Emma. Should be the mother her daughter needed. Instead, she grabbed her laptop and pulled up the opening night seating chart. She had work to do 2 hours later. Lily drove back to Harvest and Honey. The staff meeting had long since ended, but Marcus had left detailed notes. As she reviewed them, her phone rang. Her mother, Susan. Lily, did you forget? Lily's stomach dropped. Forget what? Your father's birthday? Dinner? We've been waiting for you for an hour. No. She'd put it in her calendar. She'd set 3 reminders. How had she, Mom? I'm so sorry. I had an emergency with Emma. And then I had 2. You're at the restaurant, aren't you? Lily didn't answer. Lily Chen, your father is turning 70. Your sister flew in from Boston. Your brother drove 3 hours from Eugene. And you couldn't be bothered to show up. I didn't forget. Time got away from me. Time has been getting away from you for 2 years. Ever since you started this restaurant project. Her mother's voice was sharp. Your family needs you, Lily. When are you going to understand that? I'm building something, Mom. I'm creating a legacy. At what cost? Susan asked quietly. Your marriage ended. Your daughter barely speaks to you. You missed your father's 70th birthday. What legacy is worth that? Lily felt tears burning behind her eyes. I have to go. Tell Dad I'm sorry. I'll make it up to him. When? When you finally have time? When the restaurant is successful enough. When will it ever be enough, Lily? Her mother hung up. Lily sat in the empty dining room of her dream restaurant, surrounded by the beautiful tables and custom light fixtures and hand-painted murals. Started to cry. She'd wanted this so badly. Had sacrificed so much. But her mother's question echoed in her mind. Asterisk, what legacy is worth that? Asterisk, can you build something beautiful on a foundation of broken relationships? Or does the whole thing eventually collapse? Opening night arrived in a blur of controlled chaos. The kitchen staff moved with practiced precision. Marcus called out orders. Plates went out looking perfect. The dining room was full of our reservation booked. A waiting list of people hoping for cancellations. Lily should have been in the kitchen overseeing everything. But she was in her office staring at her phone. Emma's school had called 20 minutes ago. Emma had gotten into a fight with another student. She was suspended for 3 days. David was supposed to handle it, but he wasn't answering his phone. The school counselor had left a voicemail. Mrs. Chen, we need to talk about Emma's behavior. This isn't the first incident. We're concerned about what's happening at home. It's happening at home. Emma was barely speaking to her. Was failing math? Had started wearing all black and listening to angry music through her headphones at dinner when they had dinner together. Which was rare. Lily had told herself it was just a phase. Just normal teenage stuff. But was it? Or was it her daughter crying out for attention while Lily was too busy chasing her dream to notice? Marcus knocked on the office door. Chef, we need you. Table 8 is sending back the halibut. Says it's overcooked. Lily wiped her eyes and stood. I'll handle it. She put on her chef's coat and pushed through the swinging doors into the kitchen. The heat and noise enveloped her like a familiar embrace. This was where she belonged, where she felt competent and in control, where she knew exactly what to do. She prepared a new halibut dish herself, perfectly cooked, and brought it out to table 8 personally. The customer was appeased. Crisis averted. But as Lily returned to the kitchen, she caught sight of her reflection in the stainless steel of the prep station. She looked exhausted, older than her 37 years. There were lines around her eyes she didn't remember being there before. The night continued. More orders. More plates. More controlled chaos. At 11 p.m., they finally served the last table. The staff gathered in the kitchen for a toast. They've done it. Successful opening night. Good reviews would follow, Lily was sure. Everyone was celebrating. But Lily felt numb. She left the restaurant at midnight and drove home. The house was dark except for one light Tema's room. Lily climbed the stairs slowly and knocked on her daughter's door. Come in, Emma said quietly. Lily pushed the door open. Emma was sitting on her bed, still dressed, eyes red from crying. The school called, Lily said. I know. Do you want to tell me what happened? Emma shrugged. Some girl said something mean. I pushed her. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Em. You're not a violent person. This isn't like you. How would you know what I'm like? Emma's voice cracked. You're never here. It's not fair. I'm building something for us. For our future. I don't want a future where my mom is never around. Emma was crying now. I needed you today. I needed you last week when I got a C on my math test. I needed you last month when Natalie stopped being my friend. I needed you 6 months ago when Dad moved out and you were so focused on the stupid restaurant that you didn't even notice I was falling apart. Each word was a knife. Lily sank onto the edge of Emma's bed, her own tears falling. Em, I'm so sorry. Everyone keeps saying sorry. Dad says sorry for forgetting to pick me up. You say sorry for missing my recital. Grandma says sorry that you couldn't make Grandpa's birthday. But sorry doesn't fix anything, Mom. Sorry doesn't make you show up. I'm trying, sweetheart. I'm trying to balance. You're not balancing anything. You chose the restaurant. Over me. Over Dad. Over everyone. Emma looked at her mother with eyes that seemed far too old for 12. And the worst part is, I don't even blame you anymore. I just feel sad. Sad that my mom cares more about fancy food than she does about me. That's not true. Emma, you are the most important. Then prove it. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Please, Mom, prove it. Because I can't keep feeling like I'm competing with a restaurant for your attention. I can't keep losing. Lily wanted to argue. Wanted to explain that it wasn't that simple. That she could love Emma and also love her work. That women were allowed to have careers and families. That she was doing her best. But looking at her daughter's broken expression, she realized her best wasn't good enough. I don't know how, Lily admitted. I don't know how to be the mother you need and also be the chef I've always wanted to be. Maybe you can't be both, Emma said. Maybe that's the problem. You don't have to say it. It's in the way you describe her. The way she moves through the world. Michael looked up. That's what's cool about art. You can say things without saying them. Grace felt a chill run down her spine. This boy, this quiet, overlooked, 12-year-old boy had just articulated something she'd been trying to explain to people for decades. You're going to be extraordinary, she told him. Not because of your talent, though that's undeniable, but because of your ability to see beneath the surface, to understand the emotional truth of things. Michael's cheeks flushed. My mom says I think too much, that I need to be more practical. Your mom loves you, Grace said carefully, but she's wrong about this. Thinking deeply, feeling deeply, that's not a flaw. That's your superpower. They kept talking, trading observations about art and life and creativity. Grace pulled out her laptop and showed Michael some famous artists: Van Gogh, Frida Kahlo, Jean-Michel Basquiat. She told him their stories, how they struggled, how they were dismissed and rejected, how they created anyway because they had no choice. Van Gogh only sold one painting during his lifetime, Grace said. Everyone thought he was wasting his time. Now his work hangs in museums around the world. Success doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Michael absorbed every word, his eyes bright with interest. And Grace realized this was the most engaged she'd felt in years. Not just present, but alive, connected, purposeful. Around 4 o'clock, Michael's stomach growled loudly. They both laughed, and Grace made grilled cheese sandwiches comfort food, simple and perfect. They ate at the kitchen table, and Michael told her about a graphic novel he wanted to create. A story about a boy who could bring his drawings to life. That sounds amazing, Grace said. Have you started it? Just sketches. I don't know if I can write the story part. I'm not good with words like you are. Want to know a secret? Grace leaned forward conspiratorially. The first draft of anything is always terrible. The magic happens in the revision. You just have to be brave enough to start. Will you help me? Michael asked suddenly. With the story part, Grace's heart swelled. I would be honored. They shook hands solemnly, sealing their partnership. And in that moment, Grace felt something she hadn't felt in 15 years. Excitement about creating something new. When Lauren arrived at 5 o'clock to pick up Michael, she found them sitting on the floor of the living room, surrounded by notebooks and sketch paper, laughing about a particularly ridiculous character idea. Wow, Lauren said, surprised. You two look like you're having fun. Michael jumped up, his face flushed with happiness. Mom, Grace used to be a writer, and she's going to help me with my graphic novel. And she showed me all these artists who slowed down. Lauren laughed. That's great, honey. But we should let Grace rest. I'm sure she's exhausted. Actually, Grace said, standing up, I was hoping Michael could come back next week. We have a project we're working on. Michael's face lit up. Really? Can I, Mom? Please. Lauren looked between them, something unreadable in her expression. "I don't want to impose, you're not imposing," Grace said firmly. "I'm asking if that's okay with you." Lauren hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, if Grace doesn't mind, you can come back next Saturday." Michael hugged Grace quick and impulsive before she could react. "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything." After they left, Grace stood in her quiet house, looking at the notebooks still scattered across the floor. At the stories she'd abandoned. At the life she'd convinced herself was over. And she realized Michael had given her something she'd lost years ago. Permission to try again. What if the students we teach end up being our greatest teachers? The following Saturday came quickly. Grace had spent the week in a state of nervous excitement she hadn't felt since her 20s. She'd pulled out more of her old notebooks, read through them with fresh eyes, and terrifyingly started writing again. Just small things. Character sketches. Scene fragments. Words flowing from her fingers like water from a long-closed tap. When Michael arrived, he had his backpack stuffed with sketchbooks and a 3-ring binder filled with loose drawings. They spread everything out on Grace's dining room table and got to work. Michael showed her his concept art for the graphic novel A Boy Named Atlas, who discovers he can make his drawings come to life, but only at night. The drawings were stunning, atmospheric, full of shadows and light. "This is the main character," Michael said, pointing to a sketch of a lonely-looking boy with messy hair. "He doesn't have any friends, so he draws them, but they disappear when the sun comes up." Grace felt her throat tighten. "Michael, is this about you?" He shrugged, not meeting her eyes. "Maybe a little. They've worked on the story together." Grace asked questions, Michael sketched answers. They built the world page by page, scene by scene. Grace taught him about story structure, beginning, middle, end, conflict, and resolution. Michael taught her about visual storytelling, how a single image could convey what might take paragraphs to write. "See here?" Michael pointed to a drawing of Atlas sitting alone at lunch. "I don't need to say he's lonely. You can see it in the way he's hunched over, the way the empty chairs around him create negative space." Grace studied the drawing. "That's brilliant. Show, don't tell, that's what every writing teacher says, but you're doing it naturally." "It's easier to show with pictures," Michael said. "Words are harder. Words are just another kind of picture," Grace countered. "They paint images in people's minds. You're doing the same thing, just with different tools." They worked for 3 hours straight, barely noticing the time pass. When they finally took a break, Grace made hot chocolate and they sat on her back porch watching birds at the feeder. "Can I ask you something?" Michael said quietly, "Always." "Why did you stop writing?" "Really?" Grace took a long sip of her hot chocolate, gathering her thoughts. I think I stopped because I was afraid of failing. And somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that not trying was safer than trying and falling short. But you were good. Your stories are really good." "Thank you. But good doesn't always feel like enough when you're comparing yourself to everyone else. When you're getting rejected over and over. When people you love tell you it's not practical." Grace looked at him. "Does that make sense?" Michael nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's safer to say you're not trying than to try and have people tell you you're not good enough." "Exactly." "But that's sad," Michael said, "because then you never get to do the thing that makes you happy." Out of the mouths of babes, Grace thought. This 12-year-old had just articulated what she'd been too scared to admit for 15 years. "You're right. It is sad, and I'm not going to let that happen to you." "Or to you," Michael added firmly. Grace smiled. "Deal." Over the following weeks, their Saturday sessions became routine. Michael would arrive with new drawings, Grace with new story ideas. They challenged each other, pushed each other, created something neither could have made alone. The graphic novel was taking shape, a beautiful, haunting story about loneliness and imagination and finding where you belong. But more than that, something was shifting in both of them. Michael was gaining confidence, speaking up more, showing his work to other people. And Grace was rediscovering parts of herself she'd thought were dead, her creativity, Her passion, her belief that art mattered. One Saturday in early November, about 2 months after that first afternoon, Lauren came to pick up Michael and asked if she could talk to Grace privately. Of course, Grace said, her stomach nodding with worry. Had she overstepped? Was Lauren going to end their sessions? They sat in the kitchen while Michael packed up his things in the living room. Lauren looked uncomfortable, her hands wrapped around a coffee mug Grace had given her. I need to thank you, Lauren said finally, and apologize. Grace blinked. Apologize? For what? For not seeing my own son clearly. For dismissing something that's so important to him. Lauren's eyes filled with tears. His teacher called me last week. Said Michael has been more engaged in class, more confident, making friends. She asked what had changed. And I realized, it was you. Whatever you've been doing with him these past few months, it's working. Lauren, I haven't done anything special. I just listened to him. Let him be himself. That's more than I've been doing. Lauren wiped her eyes. I've been so focused on his future, on making sure he has opportunities, that he's prepared for the real world, that I forgot to see who he actually is. He's an artist, Grace, and I kept trying to make him something else. Grace reached across the table and squeezed her friend's hand. You're a good mom. You want what's best for him. That's not wrong. But I was going about it the wrong way. I was projecting my fears onto him. My dad was an artist, a painter, and he struggled his whole life, could barely pay bills. I watched my mom work 3 jobs to support us. I didn't want that for Michael. I understand that fear, Grace said gently. But Michael isn't your father, and the world is different now. There are more paths, more possibilities. He can be an artist and have stability. They're not mutually exclusive. Over the next few weeks, Lily stuck to her new schedule. She worked Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights at the restaurant. The rest of the time, she was present for Emma. She went to volleyball games, helped with homework, made dinner at home instead of bringing home restaurant leftovers, had actual conversations instead of distracted check dash-ins. It was hard at first. Lily felt guilty about not being at the restaurant, felt anxious about letting go of control, worried that everything would fall apart without her. But it didn't. Marcus was an excellent chef. The reviews stayed strong. The restaurant was successful, and more importantly, Emma started to soften, started to trust that Lily would actually show up. They had their Sunday adventures, the coast, hiking, museums, whatever Emma wanted. They started a tradition of Friday night movies at home. It's just the two of them. Lily's relationship with her parents improved too. She started attending family dinners again, made it to her father's belated birthday celebration, actually answered when her sister called. David noticed the changes too. You seem different, he said one day when they were coordinating Emma's schedule. I am different. I've finally figured out what actually matters. I'm glad. Emma needed this. She needed you. I know. I should have realized it sooner. We both made mistakes, Lily. I pushed you away instead of supporting you. You pushed yourself too hard. But we're both trying to be better now. That's what counts. 3 months after making her changes, Lily sat in the restaurant on a quiet Tuesday night. Service was over. The kitchen was clean. Marcus was heading home. Great job tonight, Lily told him. Thanks, Chef. You heading out too? In a minute. After Marcus left, Lily walked through the empty dining room. She ran her hand along the tables, looked at the custom light fixtures, remembered how much she'd sacrificed to build this place. She thought about the version of herself who'd opened these doors 3 months ago. That woman had been so focused on proving something that she'd almost lost everything that mattered. She'd equated success with recognition, with accomplishment, with external validation. But success wasn't a restaurant. It wasn't awards or reviews or full reservation books. Success was Emma laughing during Sunday adventures. Success was rebuilding relationships she'd almost destroyed. Success was finally understanding that you could have a career and a life, but you had to be intentional about both. Her phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Don't forget you're bringing snacks to my game tomorrow. Asterisk Lily smiled and typed back. Asterisk already bought them. See you at 4 o'clock. Asterisk as she locked up the restaurant and drove home. Lily thought about the question her mother had asked months ago. Asterisk, what legacy is worth that? Asterisk, she finally had her answer. No legacy was worth sacrificing the people you loved. But the good news, you didn't have to choose one or the other. You just had to be brave enough to redefine what success meant. Lily had wanted the restaurant so badly, had thought it was everything. And in a way, still was everything, just not in the way she'd expected. The real everything was the life she'd built around it. The daughter who trusted her again. The family dinners she attended. The Sunday adventures and Friday movie nights and volleyball games. The restaurant was beautiful, successful, everything she'd dreamed. But it was just a restaurant. And she'd finally learned that some things, most things, were more important than dreams. She pulled into her driveway and saw Emma's light on upstairs. Lily didn't go to her home office to check emails or review menus. Instead, she went upstairs and knocked on Emma's door. "Come in," Emma called. Lily pushed the door open. Emma was doing homework, sprawled across her bed with papers everywhere. "Need any help?" Lily asked. Emma looked up and smiled. Really smiled. "Yeah, actually. I'm stuck on this math problem." Lily sat on the edge of the bed and they worked through the problem together. When they finished, Emma said, "Thanks, Mom." "Anytime, sweetheart. That's what I'm here for." "I know," Emma said. And the simple certainty in her voice, the trust, was worth more than every reservation. Every review, every accolade Lily had ever dreamed of receiving. She'd chased the wrong dream for so long. But she'd finally woken up in time to chase the one that actually mattered. And that, Lily realized as she kissed Emma's forehead and said goodnight, was the greatest success of all.